Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the German Tier 10 Tech Tree Heavy Tank, the Panzer VII. Now if you did like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Panzer VII is actually a really quite a nice heavy tank. It actually got buffed back in March, I think it was, and they buffed the two side weak spots on this thing that used to make it a bit of a pain sometimes to side scrape him. And they basically buffed those plates from like 160mm to 240, and one bit of it up to 300mm, which means that the actual side weak spots of this vehicle are actually really good now. And they ricochet quite a lot of shells, which means this tank is actually very good at side scraping. And to be honest, I think this tank is pretty damn nice to play in general. The gun handling on it is good. The armour on it works pretty damn well if you angle enough. The only downside to this vehicle, realistically, is the gun mantlet. The gun mantlet lets it down a fair bit, because if you were to shoot it on the upper left side of the gun mantlet, there's just basically a black hole in the armour, and you can go straight through it with about 240, 250 pen, which most tier 10s have, which is a little bit sad for the Panzer VII, but that's realistically the only weak point for me of this vehicle, other than the fact that it's also slow, but it's a super heavy tank, and it's got very good armour, so it is what it is. You've got a 33km/h top speed with the build that I have, a 15km/h reverse speed with a 1200 horsepower engine, which is actually a 10 horsepower per ton ratio, which is really quite poor. 33km/h top speed is fairly slow. You tend to be doing about 30 round and abouts in this vehicle. You've got a 12% internal fire chance, which means that you're not actually that bad for fire chances, but if people do pen you in the side of this tank, in the front end, they will probably set you on fire, because that's where the engines are, and it can just get lit on fire through that. And also getting set on fire through the lower plate as well, which can be a bit of pain. You've got pretty okay ground resistances. 2.08 during soft is not that great, but the 1.08 on medium and 0.99 on firm is fantastic. 24 degrees a second hull rotation speed is also fairly slow, so you might want to make that better. You've got 523 meters of view range, which is very, very good with the build that I have, which means you can spot for yourself very, very well in this vehicle, and you will be able to actually pick up quite a lot of assistance in quite a few situations where you're on bigger maps where you require the view range. 22 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed with the build that I have as well is also very, very slow, which is why we run stuff like rapid aim, because the turret traverse is slow on this vehicle. So you do everything you can to make it better, and it's even worse when you got a broken turret. We've got 0.44 accuracy during rotation with 1.69 accuracy during movement, which is actually really good, and that is without gun stabilizer. So that is really, really nice for the Panzer VII. It means you don't have to run the gun stabilizer to have a good aim circle size, and you will be able to not have to run the gun stabilizer and be able to run other things on the vehicle to make it better in other ways. 2.35 second aim time, though, isn't that great, but because the actual aim circle doesn't bloom out that much, because the accuracy during rotation and movement is actually pretty good, it means that you don't actually suffer that 2.35 accuracy during movement that badly. And with a 0.29 accuracy with the build that we have as well, that's not actually that bad at all. 10.81 second reload, which is 3.1k DPM, is very, whatever, but you can put big slugs of rounds into people that have 560 alpha, which is a very nice thing for this 128mm gun that this vehicle has. That 560 alpha is delightful. You hit quite hard, quite often, which is definitely a nice advantage for the vehicle. With 258 penetration on the standard AP, 315 penetration on the premium APCR. With 1,100 meters a second shell velocity on your standard and 1,350 on the premium. Your shell velocity is actually really good on this vehicle, which is definitely a nice thing for the Panzer VII as well. Means that, especially when you're firing premium, you don't have to give quite as much lead as you'd expect for such a higher caliber gun. And it can be, the gun handling on this vehicle just actually feels generally very, very nice. Very, very nice. It's one of those things that before 6.0, this gun used to be really frustrating because it loved a good miss. Whereas with all the gun perks, with the equipment, all that good stuff since 6.0, this gun is absolutely fantastic. Also buffs that it's received in the past 4 years, you know. It makes the tank actually pretty damn nice to play. Like I say, the armor on it is very good. It stands up very, very well. As long as people don't know about your gun mantlet spot, you can have a good time and block quite a lot of damage, as you've seen in this replay so far, up to 2.9k damage, and we blocked quite a few premium rounds as well in this one as well, which is nice. And we're up to 3.9k damage, which, again, gun handling, as you've seen the shot go straight into the E5's cupola there. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on the old Panzer VII? Well, on the Panzer VII, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Track Mechanic, and Rapid Aim. Rapid Aim to make the turret traverse better, because like I say, if you don't, it is very, very slow. It's about 20 degrees a second if you don't run the Rapid Aim, and 22 degrees a second is still very slow with Rapid Aim. I run the 3 gun perks to make sure this gun is as good as possible, and if I take those 3 gun perks, I do not have to run the gun stabilizer. And then I run Advanced Loader, Optics, and Vents. Vents to make everything about the tank better, generally to try and get as much out of the DPM as possible, because it's, again, not that good, realistically, so I want to make it as good as it can be. Optics to be able to spot for myself and have that 523 metres of view range, which is a bit overkill, but at the same time, it's really quite nice for spotting and be able to get your own assistance at times. And then the Advanced Loader to make sure that you got the best DPM possible. I mean, realistically, if you wanted to, you could drop the Vents and run something like Advanced Armour, run Armour Angling instead of Rapid Aim, and you'll be able to reduce the amount of damage coming into your tank by 10% if you wanted to. You could also, if you feel like your view range is good enough, just go, oh, you know what, screw it, I'm going to drop the Optics and run the traction system to get a better track traverse with clutch braking. I wouldn't take traction system to be able to go faster, because sure, you could get up to 36 kilometers an hour top speed, but to be honest, in the Panzer VII, you're not going to hit it with the traction system, so unless you're going on a down slope. So yeah, the traction system isn't worth it for the top speed, but possibly for the track traverse, because naturally you will go from 24 degrees a second to probably like 26 degrees or 27 degrees a second, somewhere in that region with it. And then you run clutch braking as well, and you're getting even faster, right? That extra ability to turn quicker would be quite nice for the Panzer VII, to be fair. Just depends if you can bear the slower turret traverse. So we're on this first replay, and we've got 4.9k damage so far with 459 assistance damage, and there's only 1 tank left on the enemy team. It's been a fairly so-so game for the Panzer VII. We've just sort of tanked along, done what it wants to do, got stuck in on the front line, lost a lot of hit points very, very earlier on, and then managed to claw back a pretty damn nice game from the position we ended up in. And we've finished that game with that 4.9k damage, 2,940 blocks as well, which is really good as well, considering some of the guns that we were blocking, like the 50B, the heat rounds for the 430U, and the Turan. Finished with that 459 assistance as well. The first class, the Confederate, for 1,363 base XP. Again, an okay game for the Panzer VII there on Westfield. It showed off what the Panzer VII is probably good for, what it's fairly bad for, and that is that obviously it is a pretty slow tank. And obviously if you start getting peppered by premium rounds, your health does just start to disappear quite quickly. But on the whole, the armour does hold up really, really nicely. The gun handling, like you saw, without the gun stabilizer, is fantastic. It's very rarely that the aim circle actually blooms out, and you hit most of your shots. The shell velocity being nice as well. And then having good view range and stuff like that. The 560 Alpha is definitely very nice, this 128mm gun on the Panzer VII. So we're on the second replay, and we're in the dream scenario, and oh boy, we're going to have a game for you. And that is, we're on Himmelsdorf, which is the dream scenario. There is literally 2 heavy tanks in this game. 2! Me and an IS-7. So we're going to have an absolute time. We're going to the Banana Road, which is somewhere that I don't often go that often, realistically, because usually if there's an AVRE or a 4005 or a Death Star, they go over here, and it's absolute pain. But we're going to go Brawl, and it's what the Panzer VII wants to be doing. This Minotauro has been very, very aggressive, so we're just angling as much as possible. He goes for the old weak spot on the Panzer VII. No, boy, you ain't going through that anymore, and we slap him for 551. You can see I'm just keeping wiggling as much as possible, making it as difficult as I can for this Minotauro, and we're just going to go straight through his lower plate. 595. I say, oh, it just hits so hard. He goes for the lower plate and bounces, but the thing is, the lower plate on the Panzer VII is actually really quite good. So if you angle it well, it can ricochet you so many shells and bait people into shooting it. Once again, he goes for that weak spot. He doesn't penny bounces. That weak spot buff is very big for the Panzer VII. We went for the lower plate of the IS-7 there, but even though we could see the IS-7's lower plate, the modelling on the corner of this wall on Himmelsdorf, well, just took the shell. But the IS-7's sitting there going, shoot me. So we go for it again. And once again, we can see the whole lower plate of the IS-7. You can see there, I can actually see the IS-7, but I can't shoot it because the modelling on that corner is a little bit sus. But we finally get the shot into the lower plate. You can see me going, visible rage. You can see me going, why? He should have lost at least 3 sets of hit point shots here. But hey, well, you know what? We're just going to keep pummeling the shots into this IS-7. We're up to 2,205 damage. And it's going pretty decently, but there is only 2 of us, and there is 4 tanks in front, which could be quite poor for us. But we're keeping the shots flowing. We've now got a AVRE with us. We tracked the IS-7. He gets hit by the AVRE. Hopefully we can shut him down, because that's getting guns out the game, because there's currently still 3 tanks in front of us. The WZ-113 GFT, I was kind of like, oh no, if he fires heat, he could go straight through. But he fired HE. So, okay. We put a shot through his lower plate. It'd be nice to get rid of the Minotauro if we could, because again, guns out the game, but it would take quite a high roll. We've got to be careful though, because naturally a 268 has a lot of pen, same as the WZ-113 GFT, and they might still laugh at the newly buffed weak spots. Also, if they're firing heat, our poor armor will get butchered, because, well, you know, it's a 268 and a WZ-113 GFT. They've got like 370 plus pen on their premium rounds, which is going to destroy us, and that's not very nice. But it's going well, because the Panzer VII is in its field of dreams. Because we're up to 5.2k damage with blocks 3020. I'm trying not to be awkward for this AVRE right now, and we've managed to actually bait the shot from the WZ-113 GFT there on our lower plate, because you can see that the angle that we pulled out around the corner for the WZ-113 GFT, you might think that that was giving him a good shot at the drive wheel, but the front armor of this Panzer VII is extremely thick, and it's quite difficult for around the 250-60 pen mark at that kind of angle to actually track and pen something like the Panzer VII. And to add to that, if they bait for the lower plate, it's actually quite difficult to pen the lower plate at that angle as well, because it is pretty thick. We go for the cupola on the Minotauro, and to be fair, that's quite the shot, because that cupola shot on the Minotauro, sorry, doesn't often come off. So we'll take that bit of RNG. And we're up to 6,087 damage. Now going after... Oh, he's off with his head. We managed to snap the shot on the 140, popping his head with the ammo rack. Up to that 6.7k nearly damage mark. Again, you're seeing the gun handling on this vehicle is very, very good. Go for the back drive wheel of the E4 so that we can track him in place. And again, if he gets penned by the medium tank that's in front, he might actually feed us some assistance. Again, I'm not too bothered about giving the E4 a possible shot because, well, I've got all the health. And we pen him in the back end and set him on fire. Beautiful scenes again. We're up to 5 kills with 8,042 damage. There's 3 tanks left on the enemy team. And this game is currently... Well, we are winning at 6-3, but we're at a point where... Oh, we could get like 9k possibly here. The AVRE is currently backing off. So we're just going to close the distance as quickly as we can do to hopefully get there. But... this is where you're seeing a bit of a problem for the old Panzer VII, and the fact that we are slow. We are slow in the Panzer VII, and when we've got to start climbing a hill, this is where we're going to run into issues. Sadly, the AVRE actually shuts down the Murat there that was on the hill, and that means that there's only 1 tank left, which I think was the AVREs that was still alive. So we're just going to keep climbing as quickly as we can, but... yeah, you're seeing where a big downside to the old Panzer VII is, and that is we're going up a hill at 12 kilometers an hour. It's taken us 10 years. The worst situation that we actually could have had here is the fact that this guy, well, these 2 guys were on the hill, and that meant that we have to, in terms of getting more damage, that meant we have to climb this thing, and this thing, it's pure pain, because you're sitting there watching this AVRE going, I just want 1 more shot. Why is he losing all of his hit points? Oh, he's going to... oh, maybe we can get a shot. The 140 bounces. Come on, get the gun down. Oh, we bounced off the bloody blade. And, yeah, well, unfortunately, the 1390 ends up... well, fortunately, unfortunately, the 1390 shuts down the AVRE. Finished with the victory. 5 kills, 8,042 damage. The ace tanker, the steel wall, the high caliber... 1,839 base XP, a really fantastic game there for the Panzer VII. I was really hoping for the Top Gun, but it is what it is. And we had a great game for the Panzer VII, which is, like I say, a pretty decent tank to play. Like, I like the gun, I like the alpha, the armor works well, except for that gun mantlet spot, and you can have a pretty good time in that super heavy role with the Panzer VII. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success.